Jalen Brunson has officially been named the captain of the New York Knicks, and also a rival NBA executive has revealed a target that the New York Knicks should go after, and we're going to break all this down. So what's up, guys? Welcome back to Knicks Digest. It's Chris here, and we're going to jump right into the video, as we always do, starting with the fact that the New York Knicks have named Jalen Brunson their team captain. This is the first time that anyone has been named the captain of the New York Knicks since Lance Thomas in the 2018-2019 season. So obviously that was a much different team, and Lance Thomas was a much different captain. But this comes on the heels, obviously, of Jalen Brunson signing that massive extension with the Knicks, where he also took a $113 million pay cut. Something that became more and more realistic as time went on. And then obviously we saw it culminate in Brunson getting that extension, giving the Knicks a massive pay cut, giving them way more cap flexibility to continue to build a winning contender around him, instead of him getting paid an unreasonable amount of money that just would have hurt the Knicks more. I understand that most people would have taken it. Carmelo Anthony even went out on a limb and said, oh yeah, I would have easily taken that money. Most people would have. Jalen Brunson's of a different breed. Also, it helps that he grew up with money, I think. So money's not something that Jalen Brunson's afraid of. It had been said time and time again that Jalen Brunson absolutely does not care about being named a top guy when it comes to what your contract is. The man wants to win. He's one of the greatest just team players in history of sports for doing this. I mean, who the hell is turning down $113 million? The New York Knicks captain. That is who. And this is a list of all the recent captains in New York Knicks history. Well, recent's a stretch. But from Jalen Brunson to Lance Thomas to Courtney Lee to Carmelo Anthony to Amari and Raymond Felton and David Lee, there's been a lot of guys who everyone kind of knows if you're a New York Knicks fan. The first captain of all time was actually Ozzie Schechtman, who did score the first basket in history of the NBA, which was for the Knicks. He is from New York, only played in the 1946-47 inaugural NBA season. But shout out to Ozzie for getting the job done. Now, also on top of this also comes on the heels of years and years ago when people did not want Jalen Brunson on the team whatsoever. They thought it was going to be a bad move. People were talking completely different things. I'll make this a little bit bigger for you guys just so we can highlight the mistakes that people made, saying if the Knicks signed Jalen Brunson at $20 million plus of an annual salary, I'm out, fire everybody, or Jalen Brunson is a good player, but getting him won't make the Knicks better. Well, that was obviously so wrong. All of these are just incorrect. There's a million different people saying this from 2022. Now, I think like most people, I was weary of the Jalen Brunson signing, but I was also really here for it because the Knicks needed a point guard, and that's exactly what they went out and did. They didn't just get a point guard. They got one of the best point guards possible. I mean, Jalen Brunson's been nothing outside of phenomenal for the New York Knicks, and Leon Rose himself even highlighted that, saying the New York Knicks have a deep and storied history, and today we are immensely proud to add to that lineage by naming Jalen Brunson our captain. Jalen is a natural-born leader, and I'm confident he will continue to represent our organization, fans, city, and his teammates with the same heart, grit, and class that he has displayed each and every day since he came to New York. Obviously, that class did not start there. Jalen Brunson from that Villanova tree. He's one of the hardest workers on the planet. That was true in Dallas. That was true in college. I assume it was true all the way throughout his entire life, from that video of his dad making him work hard. And Brunson just kept working in that video, too. You could tell even when he was just a young kid. He's wanted it, and that's why he is this good now, putting up nearly 29 points per game last year, along with 7 assists, shooting 48% from the field and 40% from three, while really doing his work from all over the court. I mean, 32% of his shots are threes, so a little under a third of them. He's working in the mid-range. He's working down low. He can create threes for himself very well. Not even 60% of his threes are assisted. Shoots 46% on corner threes. I know he doesn't shoot a lot of them because he's running the offense, but just another Knick who's insanely good at shooting corner threes. The man's 27 years old. He's about to turn 28. He's got more room to grow. I think he is still getting better. I don't think we've seen Jalen Brunson at his peak. Now, I'm not saying Brunson's going to become leaps and bounds better than the player that he is today, but I do think he will continue to improve. However, I also think it's important to note that we might not see him put up 29 points per game again this season, at least in the regular season, because of the acquisition of Mikal Bridges, having Julius Randle there for the full season. And that might be for the best. It gives Jalen a little more rest, so I don't really mind that at all. But Jaylen Brunson, shout out to you. Easily, you're the only person in a very long time to actually be contending for a chance to become the greatest Knick of all time. I think if the Knicks win a championship with Brunson as the best player on the team, he is their GOAT, and the reason is they have never won a championship when there has been a three-point line. I understand that Clyde Frazier and Willis Reed were great when the Knicks won the championship. I get that, especially Clyde, who had the greatest Game 7 of all time in 1970. But at the same time, it was such a different era. There weren't 30 NBA teams. Jalen Brunson deserves all the flowers that he gets. I can't wait to watch him play again. Like all Knicks fans, I love him completely. And shout out to just the entire Brunson family for that one time I was sitting right behind them and said that Brunson wasn't playing very well. Also, he finished that game with 40 points. So Jalen Brunson's family, I'm sorry that I disrespected the greatest player that we've seen since Ewing. So yeah. That's where we're at right now. But also we have more Knicks news, and that is for the fact that an NBA executive has claimed the New York Knicks should sign a former Jazz and Miami Heat center, and it is none other than the man who you guys will not stop talking about in the comments, which is why I added this, in Omar Yvan. I understand that Knicks fans, or at least Knicks Digest fans, y'all love Omar Yvan, so I wanted to come out here, and I'm like, you know what? I'll do it. I'll bite. I'll do the Yurtseven video. An NBA rival executive did mention Yurtseven as a guy the New York Knicks should target to give them more leeway, and also he's more reminiscent of Isaiah Hartenstein than maybe Precious Achiuwa and definitely Jericho Sims, though it's not shade towards any of those guys. It's just play style, which is completely fair. Now, as the anonymous NBA executive told Sean Devaney, for what they need, he might be a really good fit. His defense has always been a question mark, but they did a good job with Hartenstein on that end, and I think they could get there with him. I absolutely agree with that also because how good the Knicks big men coaches are between Othella Harrington and Tibbs and the whole crew. And the executive continued by saying, when we have seen him very active on the glass, a pretty good scorer, and if you want someone who can bring off the bench and contrast to what you get with Mitchell Robinson, I think you'd have to consider him. And I'm very interested in that, mainly because I just did that Jonas Valanciunas video yesterday, and I think the contrast is good for this specific Knicks team. I think sometimes you want a backup who's exactly the mirror of the starter. This Knicks team, I think they're better off having a backup who's a bit different. Now, also the Knicks can go out and sign and trade for Nick Richards, and I'll also be happy despite the fact that he's wildly similar to Mitchell Robinson, except he's a better post scorer and not the same level of defender. But when you look at Omar Yurtseven, like Jonas Valanciunas, it just gives you a much different look. And here's the difference between these two. Valanciunas is better today. There's no doubt in my mind. There's no question about it. However, Valanciunas isn't going to take some big defensive leap if the Knicks traded for him. Yurtseven can. He's athletic. He's tall. He's really tall. He's like 7'2". He's got long arms, obviously, because he's 7'2". He's a great rebounder. Probably because he's 7'2". If you see where I'm going with this, he's a giant man who the Knicks can easily mold into a defender. Hartenstein was a fine defender on the Clippers before he came to the Knicks, but he wasn't what he was on the Knicks. The Knicks molded that, and they absolutely could do it with Omar Yurtseven also, I think. I think Yurtseven has the tools to become a great defender, and I think the New York Knicks could absolutely get him there, so I'd be very interested in that. And also, just because it's fun, let's take a look at the stats for Yurtseven. Now, Yurtseven last season in limited minutes put up 4.5 points, 4.5 rebounds, shot 54% from the field and 20% from three. Now, the real scary thing is the defensive box plus minus was a minus 1.5. Now, it's not always the easiest to have a positive box plus minus. When your team is losing a ton of games like the Utah Jazz, his value over replacement player was also negative, which is a little bit worrisome. But it's not someone who we're bringing in like, oh, this is a phenomenal player. It's someone who you're bringing in like, okay, I think the Knicks can mold him into something. And we also have Achiuwa and Jericho Sims as more insurance. We also have Skabinistev. The Knicks still have that one open two-way spot after the Kevin McCullough Jr. two-way deal. Right now, it looks like there's a good chance it goes to Jacob Toppin because they have a qualifying offer for that. But it easily still could go to Scap, who I want it to go to. No shade towards Jacob Toppin. I just think Skabinistev absolutely has it like that. the Knicks should really give that guy a chance. Even more than Yurtseven, I think, because Stepanov, it's a similar thing. Yeah, he's not going to be the same defender, but he's got a lot of offensive potential. And again, the contrast is good, especially when OG Anunoby is known to be good at guarding big men. But I want to hear from y'all. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Should the Knicks go for Yurtseven? Can Jalen Brunson become the greatest Knick of all time? What do you guys think of naming him the captain? Does it mean anything? Do you not care at all? Let me know in the comments down below. Have a great day, guys, and go Knicks. I think that video was real good.